Now it's time to fire up a truly spectacular 1000cc sport bike designed by Italian manufacturer Aprilia to do just one thing: help Max Biaggi win the World Superbike Championship. And I guess you could say that the results speak for themselves, given Biaggi scored the #1 last year. At the heart of this jewel is an extremely narrow, Rotax-built 999cc 65-degree fuel-injected V4, reported to produce 180 horsepower. The V4's power is doled out through a cassette-style 6-speed gearbox, mated to a slipper clutch. Other high-tech bits found in the engine bay include fly-by-wire throttle control, electronically controlled variable-length intake ducts, and selectable fuel mapping with 3 modes: track, sport, and road. And the tricks just keep on coming. Check out the twin spar frame made from cast and pressed aluminum, with adjustable headstock, swing arm pivot, and engine mounts, the race-ready Öhlins fork, and the massive brake combination. Perfect for Biaggi, but how does it work out on your typical Canadian back road? Well, here's what loyal viewer and ZX12 owner Mitch Gumarez had to say after cracking the throttle on the RSV4. Well, Mitch, today we're talking RSV4 Aprilia. To me, it's sort of the Ferrari of motorcycles. What was your first impression when you picked up the bike?
I loved it. Right off the bat, it's a really small package with a really big motor. Definitely a track bike that somehow made it into production that you can ride on the street.
Yeah, it's certainly got World Superbike stamped all over it. Let's talk about that motor. It's a bit of a monster, eh? V4?
V4, 65 degree, 1000 cc's. You've got all the latest in technology. You've got the double injector. You've got variable intake runners. You've got a butterfly in the exhaust.
Yeah.
And you've also got the 3 modes for riding it on the street, track, or in the ring.
And it just, it sounds sweet, huh?
Absolutely. Once you open it up, this thing really gets going.
So what would you say the impression is beneath you when you're riding the bike in terms of that motor? Is it lumpy, smooth, snarly? Describe what it feels like.
Remarkably, it's pretty smooth. Like once you get this thing up to about 5,500 and up, it really just starts singing from there. It's like I said, it's a 65-degree V4. This thing really gets up and going. You've got a lot of torque. You can pretty much be in any gear at any given time, and you've got the power to pull. It makes 180 horsepower. It's right there at the throttle.
So you get a tiny bike with lots of power, so we know it goes. It's got a cassette transmission. What do you think of the shifting?
Super smooth. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything better. The cassette transmission is notorious for coming out of a race bike, so you know that it's going to be super smooth, quick action. Yeah. No problems.
Now again, looking over the bike, you can see it's completely track ready. And one of the big keys, I think, is this Öhlins fork and Brembo brakes. What did you think of that front suspension brake combo?
The front suspension, incredible. Like, it soaks up the bumps. I mean, you wouldn't expect anything less from Öhlins. You've got Öhlins actually front and back and the steering dampener. I'll say one thing about the Brembo monoblock calipers: you better be ready for them, because when you squeeze those brakes, you're coming to a stop real quick.
Yeah, it's really one finger time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just in terms of the fit, finish, what did you think of the bike in terms of the riding position?
Riding position reminds me of a race bike. Like, you are perched on top of that motor. I mean, you can definitely see the race heritage from this design. But like I said, it's the closest that you can get to a World Superbike on the street. So it is first a race bike and then a street bike.
Switchgear is pretty minimal. Indicating instruments. What did you think in terms of the layout of the cockpit? Did it work for you?
I didn't have a problem with it. It's a combination of analog and digital. All your information is right there. You've got the RPM, you've got your speed, and it also tells you what mode you're in, which you can adjust on the fly on the handlebar.
Now, did you try the various modes?
Yes, I did.
And they work?
They work. There's a huge difference from the street mode to the track mode, and you can probably guess what mode I left it in the whole time.
Right. And then the rain road is like no fun mode.
Well, that's, you know, you're going into town and traction is minimal.
Right. I look at a bike like this and I say, okay, man,
I want one of these parked in my garage. It's like opening the door and seeing a Ferrari. It's like opening up a door and saying, hey, I got a World Superbike in my garage. Who's going to buy this bike?
I think this is going to be more of a mature rider, and it's going to be your, Ricky road racer, the guy that wants to do a track day on the weekend, but he's not into a full series. He just wants to do a couple of track days, but his everyday bike, is a quick rocket ship.
Okay. And final impressions, 1 thumb up, 2 thumbs up, down, what are we giving this thing?
That's a 2 thumbs up.
Nice job, Mitch.
Thank you.
Now it's time to fire up